committee will come to order without objection. The chair is authorized to declare a recess at any time pursuant to Committee Rule 2, House Rule 11, Clause 2. The chair may postpone further proceedings today on the question of approving any measure or matter or adopting an amendment for which a recorded vote is ordered. Now recognize the gentleman from Texas. Gentleman from Texas to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pursuant to notice, I call up the report recommending that the House of Representatives cite Robert Hunter Biden for contempt of Congress and move that the committee report it to the House. The clerk will report the report.
Resolution recommending that the House of Representatives find Robert Hunter Biden in contempt of Congress for refusal to comply.
Without objection, the report will be considered as read and open for amendment at any point. The chair now recognizes himself for an opening statement. Who is the big guy? We all know, we all think we know. Seems pretty common sense, but who is it? That's one of the questions we'd want to ask Hunter Biden. What was the business? What was the service that the Bidens provided? What was the president's son doing to earn millions of dollars from foreign entities in jobs he wasn't qualified to have? And what did the president know about his family's foreign financial entanglements? These are just some of the questions that Congress needs answers to as part of our impeachment inquiry. To get those answers, the Oversight Committee and the Judiciary Committee issued subpoenas to Mr. Biden, compelling him to appear for a joint deposition on December 13th. Mr. Biden came to the Capitol on December 13th, but did not come to the committees for that deposition. Instead, he staged a press conference in front of the Capitol. This flagrant disregard for Congress's constitutional oversight role clearly merits a citation of contempt. It's an open and shut case. Mr. Biden was issued an authorized subpoena, and without asserting any valid privilege, frankly, I don't think he asserted any privilege, valid or not, he didn't show up to testify. This is a vote to protect our institution. Hunter Biden is a critical witness in the House's official impeachment inquiry and uniquely possesses knowledge about what role the president may have played in leveraging policymaking decisions to enrich the Biden family. Of course, the American people deserve to hear directly from Hunter Biden about these facts. And we fully intend for Mr. Biden to testify before the public. But as is often the practice across committees under Republicans and Democrats, he should first sit for a deposition so that the American people get a full airing of the facts. Here's just a few things we need Hunter Biden to shed more light on. During a transcribed interview with the Oversight Committee, Devin Archer, longtime associate of Mr. Biden, described how President Biden was, quote, the brand, and was used to send, quote, signals of power, access, and influence to enrich the Biden family from foreign sources while he served as vice president. Mr. Archer testified that Mr. Biden placed his father on speakerphone during meetings with business associates approximately 20 times. We know one of those calls was made on December 4th, 2015. On that date, while Hunter Biden was in Dubai with Burisma executives Mr. Zolochevsky and Mr. Pizarski, they asked Hunter Biden to help alleviate the pressure they were under from the prosecutor in Ukraine. According to Mr. Archer, after that request was made, Hunter Biden, quote, called his dad. We know that a year after Hunter Biden was put on the board of Burisma, Vice President Biden attended a dinner at Cafe Milano on April 16th, 2015 with Mr. Pizarski and Hunter Biden and Devin Archer. Devin Archer, who was also on this Ukrainian energy company's board. What then Vice President Biden did with Burisma is the blueprint for how this whole influence peddling scheme worked. There are four fundamental facts about the Biden's involvement with this company. Fact number one, Hunter Biden was put on the board of Burisma's, board of directors of Burisma and made millions of dollars. Fact number two, Hunter Biden was not qualified to be on the board. Not my words. He said so himself in an interview on ABC News. Fact number three, Burisma executives asked Hunter Biden to help alleviate the pressure they were under from the prosecutor in Ukraine. Fact number four, Vice President Biden used his official position to hold up American tax dollars going to Ukraine until that pressure was off Burisma. He conditioned the release of funds on the firing of the prosecutor who was applying the pressure to the company that his son sat on the board of. And these facts are corroborated with the confidential human source who told the FBI and was quoted in the 1023 form. In fact, the prosecutor, Victor Shokin, is mentioned 8 times by the confidential human source in that 1023 form. That same form, by the way, that Director Wray tried to prevent Congress from seeing. The confidential human source said Burisma hired Hunter Biden to protect us through his dad from all kinds of problems. In addition to all that, the House Ways and Means Committee uncovered a threatening 2017 message from Mr. Biden to a Chinese business executive related to a business deal in which Mr. Biden wrote, quote, "I'm sitting here with my father, and we would like to understand why the commitment made has not been fulfilled." 9 days later, Mr. Biden invoked his father in that threatening message. A company affiliated with that business wired $5 million to a company jointly established by Mr. Biden. The same day, Mr. Biden transferred $400,000 from this joint venture to his personal company, and it appears now that President Biden ultimately received $40,000 of those proceeds. Rather than come before us and answer questions about these and other concurring instances of the Biden family trading cash for influence, Hunter Biden held a press conference a few hundred yards away from here, press conference where he said, "I'm happy to answer questions in public," but when he finished his statement, he abruptly left, taking no questions from the press. We have no choice but to hold Mr. Biden in contempt, and I would encourage a yes vote. We now yield to the ranking member for an opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. After a year like 2023, a year marked in the House of Representatives by Republican infighting, the ouster of a speaker, and growing legal peril for the former president, you would think that House Republicans would want to turn the page and try their hand at some actual legislating. It is unfortunate, but not surprising, that the MAGA wing of the Republican Party seems impervious to learning from its recent past. They seem committed to the same political stunts that have, by any measure, made their majority the least productive Congress in modern history. Their own members acknowledge how little they have accomplished. So here we are again, just days before a government shutdown, with war raging in Gaza and Ukraine, with Americans at home facing real problems that require our attention. House Republicans want us to know that their highest priority is, once again, Hunter Biden. And why are they chasing Hunter Biden? They are certainly not chasing him because they have uncovered evidence of any wrongdoing by President Biden or the Biden administration. Over the course of this investigation, such as it is, we have collected thousands of pages of documents and spoken to more than a dozen witnesses. One of those witnesses was Special Counsel David Weiss, who took the unprecedented step of sitting for an interview in the middle of an ongoing criminal investigation. After all of that work, House Republicans have found not a shred of evidence to suggest that President Biden was anything other than a supportive father to his son, or that his administration in any way exerted political pressure on the investigation into Hunter Biden's conduct. True, every few days, House Republicans hold up some copy of a bank record or excerpt from a transcript and claim that at long last they have finally found the smoking gun. But like clockwork, often within minutes, each new claim is thoroughly debunked. Then a few days pass and they do it again, and round we go. If Chairman Jordan and Chairman Comer were really interested in letting the American people see just how little they have found to support their accusations, they would release the transcripts of our interviews in full, instead of cherry-picking words out of context to mislead the public. For that matter, if House Republicans were genuinely interested in hearing testimony from Hunter Biden, they would have honored their initial offer to have Mr. Biden testify in public. I understand Mr. Biden is still willing to appear at a public hearing at the time and place of the chairman's choosing. I hear my Republican colleagues when they say that a congressional subpoena must be honored exactly as it is written. But you will forgive me if their newfound care for the institution sounds a little thin. This whole investigation is premised on the claim that the president is somehow profiting from his office. Let's set aside for the moment the fact that this claim is entirely evidence-free. No, I have trouble taking this new interest in foreign corruption seriously because these same Republicans did nothing while President Trump took millions from foreign interests in violation of the Emoluments Clause to the Constitution. Thanks to our Democratic colleagues on the Oversight Committee, we now know that Trump received at least $7.8 million from 20 foreign governments, including the governments of China, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates, while he was in office and while he was negotiating with those same governments. Unless it is to defend the former president, House Republicans are steadfastly silent when it comes to Donald Trump's actual, open, documented corruption. But they need to hold Hunter Biden in contempt because he once paid his father $1,400 for a 2018 Ford Raptor? Please. Republicans say that this contempt vote is necessary because it's important for the committee to defend its prerogatives. Again, this new concern for the rights and privileges of the Judiciary Committee seems wholly insincere. As we speak, the Homeland Security Committee is holding an impeachment hearing. By all reports, they intend to bypass judiciary altogether to bring articles of impeachment to the floor. The Constitution gives the sole power of impeachment to the House of Representatives, and for the whole of modern history, the House has delegated that authority to this committee until today. I do not know whether the decision to cede our jurisdiction to House Homeland was made with Chairman Jordan's blessing or over his objection. But either way, it is a terrible precedent. The decision has permanently diminished us. It weakens future chairmen of both parties. And you have ceded this ground, apparently, so that you have time to bully the president's son. And let us not forget the elephant in the room. House Republicans say that we must force Hunter Biden to comply with this subpoena. But they said nothing when Attorney General Barr and White House counsel Don McGahn stonewalled this committee. They cheered the former president on when he vowed never to comply with any of our requests. And the chairman himself blew off a valid subpoena for his testimony from the January 6th Select Committee. What chutzpah, what gall. Whatever technical excuses you made for yourself at the time, Mr. Chairman, I assure you Hunter Biden is the same. This committee has an obligation to work in good faith towards an accommodation with Hunter Biden, and to my knowledge, there is no precedent for holding a person in contempt who remains willing to testify. You may score points with the MAGA base by forcing this vote today, but you threaten to do real damage to our ability to secure evidence and testimony in the future. As with so much of this Republican Congress, there is a reasonable deal to be had here. House Republicans just refuse to take it. This contempt report is poorly timed, riddled with factual errors, and rife with hypocrisy. It has nothing to do with solving real problems for real people. I urge my colleagues to oppose it, and I hold out hope that this committee will return to more pressing work someday soon. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. The chair now recognizes himself for the purpose of offering an amendment in the nature of a substitute. The clerk will report the amendment.
Amendment in the nature of a substitute to the committee report for the resolution recommending that the House of Representatives.
Without objection, the amendment in the nature of a substitute will be considered as read and shall be considered as base text for the purpose of the amendment. The chair now recognizes himself to explain the amendment. This amendment makes a small grammatical change on page 17 of the report. It does not affect the substance of the report. I yield back. Who seeks recognition?
Move to strike the last word.
Gentleman from California, Mr. Swallow, is recognized. Then I'll come to you, I think. Fitz.
Mr. Chairman, is this a joke? No, seriously, is this hearing a joke? This is a committee that now cares about subpoena compliance, and we're going to hold somebody in contempt for subpoena compliance? That's really interesting because, to me, it seems like you believe we all had our memories wiped 608 days ago when you failed to honor your own subpoena. You see, on May 31, 2022, as the January 6th committee was investigating the greatest crime ever committed in America, with the most arrests, the most convictions, a crime against our Congress, our Constitution, our democracy, all they wanted was for you and a few of your colleagues to cooperate, to provide any information you had. And what you all did for 608 days and counting, you didn't show up. And you want us to take this proceeding seriously, where you have an issue with somebody else's compliance with a subpoena, somebody who actually is willing to come forward publicly, something you were not willing to do, something you and Mr. McCarthy and others who were asked to testify were not willing to do. So seriously, is this a joke? If it's a joke, great. This whole Congress has been a joke, so it would be in line and on brand with what has been taking place. But I have to ask, like, how dumb do you think the American people are that you would seek to hold someone in contempt when you are 608 days, 15 hours, 21 minutes, and 47 seconds out of compliance of your own subpoena? I don't know, Mr. Chairman, if it is your practice to look the other way when crimes are committed, but it's not my practice, and it's not my colleagues' practice. So what is this really all about? It's about this chairman, Speaker Johnson, and the MAGA majority acting as Insurrection LLP, creating the biggest law firm in Washington, D.C., to work every single day in this building on behalf of just one client, the former president, Donald Trump, and to carry out his petty grievances every single day. Okay, that's great. You won the majority. It's your prerogative. But the cost to the American people is we aren't doing a single thing in this committee to address gun violence, the mass shootings that occurred in the 3 weeks that we were gone. We haven't done anything to address what's going on at the border, a president who's willing to negotiate and find ways to better secure it. We're not doing anything to bring down the cost of health care and take on the pocketbook, financial breathing room issues that the American people care about. Okay, let's talk about Hunter. Mr. Comer and Mr. Jordan said, we want Hunter Biden to come in. Hunter Biden said, okay, I will come in. Mr. Comer said 2 different times, we will take his testimony publicly or we will take it privately. We will take it publicly or we will take it privately. Hunter Biden said, okay, let's do it publicly. I don't trust you all to take it privately because you haven't released the depositions that you have taken privately. Can't blame him for that. He wants to come in and testify publicly. You won't take yes for an answer, and so then you move it to let's take it privately. I think you want to take it privately because you have nothing. I think you want to take it privately because you don't want to see Marjorie Taylor Greene display the non-consensual nudes from Hunter's laptop again. I think that's why you want to take it privately. But he comes in anyway. You won't take yes for an answer. And let me just break some news for you, Mr. Chairman. Just down the hallway, Hunter Biden is sitting in the Oversight Committee. He's ready to testify publicly, it appears. So let me just challenge you one more time. If you're so eager to take his testimony publicly, I move that we adjourn right now and take his public testimony and bring him in here right now.
Is the gentleman making a motion?
Yes.
Question is on the motion to adjourn. Those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no.
No.
Opinion of the
Recorded
chairman,
vote.
noes have it.
Recorded vote.
Request a recorded vote. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Jordan?
No.
Mr. Jordan votes no. Mr. Issa? No. Mr. Issa votes no. Mr. Buck? Mr. Gates? Mr. Gates votes no. Mr. Biggs? Mr. Biggs votes no. Mr. McClintock? Mr. Tiffany? Mr. Massey? No. Mr. Massey votes no. Mr. Roy? Mr. Bishop? Ms. Spartz? Ms. Spartz votes no. Mr. Fitzgerald? Mr. Fitzgerald votes no. Mr. Bentz? Mr. Klein? Mr. Klein votes no. Mr. Armstrong? Mr. Gooden? Mr. Gooden votes no. Mr. Van Drew?
No.
Mr. Van Drew votes no. Mr. Nels?
No.
Mr. Nels votes no. Mr. Moore? Mr. Kiley? No. Mr. Kiley votes no. Ms. Hageman? Ms. Hageman votes no. Mr. Moran? Ms. Lee? Mr. Hunt? Mr. Fry? Mr. Fry votes no. Mr. Nadler?
Aye.
Mr. Nadler votes aye. Ms. Lofgren? Ms. Lofgren votes aye. Ms. Jackson Lee? Ms. Jackson Lee votes aye. Mr. Cohen? Mr. Johnson? Mr. Johnson votes aye. Mr. Schiff? Mr. Schiff votes aye. Mr. Swalwell? Mr. Swalwell votes aye. Mr. Liu? Ms. Jayapal? Ms. Jayapal votes aye. Mr. Correa? Ms. Scanlon? Mr. Neguse? Ms. McBath? Ms. Dean? Ms. Dean votes aye. Ms. Escobar? Ms. Ross? Ms. Ross votes aye. Ms. Bush? Mr. Ivy?
Aye.
Mr. Ivy votes aye. Ms. Ballant? Ms. Ballant votes aye.
Gentlelady from Texas.
Ms. Escobar votes yes.
Gentleman from North Dakota.
Mr. Armstrong votes no.
All members voted. Clerk will tally and report.
Mr. Chairman, there are 12 ayes and 15 noes.
The motion to adjourn is not agreed to. Gentleman from California yields back. He yielded back. Oh, I'm sorry. The chair
I yield
recommend- the chair recommends himself. I would just say this: why didn't they hold me in contempt?
I move to
Why
hold
didn't
your...
why didn't the committee hold me? They certainly could have. It was a completely
Would the
partisan
gentleman-
moved.
Would the
committee.
gentleman yield? And I'll explain why.
No. In a second, I want to finish my time here. It was a completely partisan committee. Why not do it? I mean, the idea that if you could have held the future Speaker of the House, the future Chairman of the Judiciary Committee, the Freedom why didn't you do it? I think they didn't do it because they knew it was bogus. They knew that
gentleman yield?
the speech or debate clause would not allow them to compel someone member of Congress to come testify. But by the way, I never said I wouldn't testify. I wrote an 11-page letter to Chairman Thompson. I'm still waiting on a response where I spelled out all the concerns we had with this committee, all the things we had caught them saying that were not accurate.
Will the gentleman yield?
No, it's my 5 minutes. I'll yield and we'll have plenty of time. I'm sure there'll be a debate. They never made a record of it. We made a record of Hunter Biden not showing last week. We actually had a court reporter there. We made a record of him not showing up for his deposition when he was over doing a press conference on the Capitol, outside the Capitol. So I think the Democrats know how ridiculous that was. And with that, I would yield to the gentleman from California.
I think the chairman, my colleague, Mr. Swalwell, who participated in that contempt by asking for and holding that press conference for Hunter Biden, knows very well the history of this committee. This committee has always enforced our legitimate subpoenas. When I was an early member of this committee, then Chairman Conyers, John Conyers, held the Bush White House in contempt, took it all the way through, and Judge Bates, a appointee of President George W. Bush, held that, in fact, you must come before this committee. There's no question that after we go through this process of contempt, a floor vote, and ultimately a court challenge, that Hunter Biden will be ordered to come here. He'll be ordered to come here for the same reason that Harry Myers was ordered to show up when George W. Bush, within his rights, fired 9 of his own appointees, and this committee had questions as to the motive. That's a sad piece of history for some of us, because some of us were not supportive of that contempt motion. But in retrospect, this committee has always asserted its rights when those rights were violated, and they were violated by Hunter Biden. And they are still to this day being violated, except, as Congressman Swalwell just made very clear, Hunter Biden is thumbing his nose not once during the day of his his subpoena. But even today, while he sits over in a hearing, not testifying, simply sort of going, nah, I've got you. Well, you know what? This is too serious a committee. This is not a joke, Mr. Swalwell. This is the most significant committee of the Congress because we take seriously people coming before it. We take serious the threat of impeachment. And in fact, we are the committee that when impeachment does happen, it has to come through. So quite frankly, this is not a joke. I look forward to us marking this up, moving it out, having a vote on it, and ultimately getting Hunter Biden to answer questions about his undoubted selling of the Vice President of the United States, of his last name, selling it around the world to countries including Russia, Ukraine, China, and others. I don't think there's any question that the evidence is clear. Now the question is, will he come forward or will he take the fifth? And I'm going to predict, Mr. Chairman, that when it's all said and done, Hunter Biden will simply take the fifth. He's just trying to delay that as long as he can. And if he can, he'd like to have it like a few others have over the years, where he makes a speech about his innocence and then takes the fifth. You and I were there for that when the IRS did that. I believe we're going to see that. But whether it occurs publicly or privately does make a difference. If he's just going to take the fifth, which I suspect he ultimately will, then he should do it behind closed doors and not have a public stage to do it. And Mr. Swalwell, you can chastise the chairman, but subpoenaing members of Congress is something we do not do under speech and debate for good and valid reason. It's the reason that you're not subpoenaed here today in this contempt after what you did with Hunter Biden. I yield back.